Hello, everyone. My name is Kieran. After the international break, we are back uploading on the channel. I realized that it had been it's been about a week since I uploaded a video. So today I wanted to go through a bit of the Man United related news and stories that have been going on during the international break. But I could not do it alone. So I brought my partner in crime for today's stream. It is, of course, Rodney. Hello, Rodney. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me on.
I'm really happy to have you on, Rodney. And by the way, guys, make sure you check out his channel in the description down below. Really good stuff, podcasts and other really great discussions. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, today, as I've already said, we're going to just kind of go through some of the Man United news stories of the week, and also just bring up some, debates that seem to be raging, ever since a particular certain someone has taken the job. But that'll come a bit later in the stream. But we're going to start with Jadon Sancho. Now, there's been a lot of excitement over the international break with Jadon Sancho, of course, joining up with the England national team. He played, I believe he played 90 minutes or close to 90 minutes against the Czech Republic in England's first international friendly, or even not a friendly, a qualifier, I should say. And a lot of people seem to be impressed with his performance. And what I wanted to ask you, Rodney, to kick this off, first of all, were you impressed with what Jadon Sancho did against the Czech Republic? And also in terms of a United move, do you think that, first of all, he would be worth the money that is being quoted for him? And do you think it would be the right move for him to come to Manchester United?
Right, before I answer that question, what has been said about him in terms of valuation? Because it varies. Is it 100 million?
Well, I mean, I'm going to take an average, to be honest, because some people are saying 100, some people are saying 70, 80. So I would say I'm going to take an average of about 80 million pounds. Okay. I guess that's the assumption anyway.
Okay, right. First things first. For England, I liked what I saw. I thought, obviously, any young player getting their chance for England is a good thing. It's a totally different experience as a viewer, watching an England team that looks interesting and stylish and artistic. He will obviously flair, and I think it will no doubt help his professional progression as a footballer. And it's a breath of fresh air. And it also adds a little bit of challenge to individuals who are in the England squad and probably might feel slightly more comfortable in terms of their position. And now that this young whippersnapper has turned up, they have to kind of be on their toes a little bit more in training. So from an England perspective, it's good. From a Jadon Sancho perspective, I'm sure he's over the moon at being given a call up so soon into his international career. But from the Manchester United point of view, in terms of him being the next best thing, in terms of him being the target that they should go for, and the valuation, I'm not sure whether it would be good for him or good for the club. It's always going to be an interesting thing when Manchester United are linked to any interesting young talent, always. The question that I have, and I'm kind of going about it a long way, do Manchester United really need to go for him? Do they really need to go for him when they have Martial, Rashford and Lukaku? Do they need to go for him?
I think that's a very interesting point, actually, and that's why I found the rumours very interesting. I think I've seen a lot of people, getting very excited with Jadon Sancho, and saying obviously he's the next best thing, and also some people. I mean, you've raised a question there, obviously, with whether we actually do need Jadon Sancho, and I think that is a very important question to ask. A lot of people would say that the right wing position at Manchester United is something that we need to improve on. I know, and a lot of people are saying that's why we should be going for someone like Jadon Sancho. But for me, I feel as if I'm not sure whether he'd fit at Manchester United. That's the thing, and I do think he's got a lot of potential. I mean, you know, a player at such a young age doing so well in the Bundesliga, you know, it's great. It's testament to him, you know, how well he's doing. The fact he got the England call up, and he's doing fantastic. But what I'm only a bit concerned about is the fact that when I do see him play, I'm not. I just don't. I sort of have doubts about whether he'd be able to fit into the style of play that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants. Now, of course, he's an exciting talent, and when you see an exciting talent, you want him at your club. You don't want him anywhere else. You want him to come to to United, let's say. And I think for England, he has been impressive. But I'm not 100% sold. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not 100% sold on Jadon Sancho. Let's see if the people in the live chat are sold on Jadon Sancho. I just want to welcome Man United Nathan. Thanks for joining. Welcome Patrick, TTX, and Rashford Jawara. Thanks for joining, guys. I really do appreciate it. TTX says Sancho would be the best fit for United in that right wing position. There you go. So obviously the TTX there, going with Sancho best fit. So obviously disagreeing with what I said, which is great. You know, please do feel free to disagree. But yeah, I think Sancho's got a lot of quality, but I feel like right now there are better players out there for that right wing position. And also I thought Rodney as well made a good point. Do we need to be looking at that position primarily? Or are there other places, but maybe defensively, that we need to look at strengthening before we look at someone like Jadon Sancho? Patrick says Sancho reminds me of Theo Walcott at the same age. That's not a good thing. Yeah, well, I mean, look, you know what? I mean, if Sancho turns out to be like Theo Walcott, I'll be disappointed. I think he'll, you know. Hopefully his development continues to go. As someone who watches the England national team, I hope he doesn't end up like Theo Walcott. But yeah, Rodney, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
I have to actually. I mean, let's. I've got to laugh because that is quite funny. Sancho played a full 90 minutes. Am I mistaken? I'm like so many games. Yeah. He did. Yeah. Right. Okay. I have seen more in the 90 minutes from Sancho than I would ever have seen in all of Theo Walcott's career. Yeah, and I will challenge any Arsenal fan to come back with anything that resembles what Jadon Sancho is currently displaying right now as a footballer. So, Patrick, I understand where you're coming from, but you're wrong. You're very, very, very wrong. Sancho is a totally different individual. Theo Walcott as a footballer, I think he was not so much indulged. I think too much was said about him before he went to Arsenal. Too much was expected of him whilst he was at Arsenal, and he was in a comfort zone. He wasn't challenged in any way. And I think that's the thing in terms of modern day football. With Sancho, I think he's bucked the trend of young footballers. He has gone and had a challenge. He's playing in another country where there is a language barrier. He's had to leave his family. He's in a totally different environment. That alone tells me he's made more impact in his footballing development and in terms of individuals around the world and in Europe being aware of who he is than Theo Walcott did in all of his time as a footballer. Totally different individuals, but I still believe that for all of his talents, whether or not he's the right player for Manchester United right now, I mean, if they want to get him for the sheer fact that he used to be City, I can understand that bit in terms of stealing their former talent. But you get him, and then what's the question? What happens to Chong? I mean, if they go and get him, what happens to Chong? Are we? I mean, this is the dilemma that I have as a United fan, and I have conversation with other United fans where they say they want the best talent, but they want youth promoted at the same time. We can't have it both ways. You know, we just honestly just cannot have it both ways. To say we want the best young talent, but we need to promote our best young. Chong's on the right hand side, Sancho's on the right. What do you want? Which one is it?
I think that's a very good point. I think, you know, ultimately, that, I mean, the thing is, you know, we've seen in the past that, you know, players have come in and, you know, everyone's been, you know, really excited about them. And people then, a few months down the line, complain about the stunting of the development of other players coming through. And as you say, you can't have it both ways. And I think whilst Sancho is a quality player, no doubt about it, and Patrick stands corrected. it seems, on the Theo Walcott comments. But ultimately, I think, look, he is a brilliant player, but there is that question of, it's like when you get a new dog, right? You get a new dog, and it's exciting at first, but down the line, there's going to be stuff that comes up. And with Sancho, I feel that could be the case, but we don't know until we see it. And we with a lot of the rumours and how, Daily Mail isn't exactly the strongest source, but I've just seen a lot of the papers reporting on it, and I thought I want to talk about it. And if Sancho does come to United, it will definitely be an exciting experiment, let's say. So Rashford here says, I don't like the international break. That's where the coaches and teams deal with their players to convince their international teammates. Oh, are you? I'm not sure. I think he might be referring to the fact that coaches are pulling out their players from the internationals, and we have seen that a lot. Man United, we can't call the whatever. I had a saying there, just popped out of my head. But yeah, of course, Man United, we have to own up ourselves. I think, Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, Jesse Lingard, all been pulled out of the national squad. Whether they all have injuries or whether I'm just wearing my tinfoil hat, I'm not sure. But I think that is something that is annoying about the international break. But it just means we get to see, more exciting young talents. Welcome to Derek. Thanks for joining, Derek. He says, next United stand on. I'm far off being that, mate. Far off being that. But I guess I appreciate the compliment. Nathan says, yo, Patrick, you couldn't be any more wrong. He's a million times better. He's referring to Theo Walcott, and he has a better thing about him. I'm not sure what that thing is, but apparently he has a better thing than Theo Walcott. And it seems a few of you agreeing with you, Rodney. TTX says we need balance on our wings. And obviously from his previous comment, he believes that Sancho would bring balance. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by balance. I'm not sure what
it's a Star Wars reference, probably.
Balance. All right. Well, I haven't watched Star. You know what? I'm going to own up here. I'm part of the 1% of the population that hasn't watched Star Wars. So yeah, the size sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to start doing movie reviews. There's so many people that don't watch it. This is just terrible.
Yeah, I know. It's shoot me.
No, not during the stream.
Not during the stream. Maybe after. But okay, let's have a look what else people are saying before we move on to the next one, which is a very interesting topic as well. Welcome, Rasmus, by the way. Thanks for joining. Rashford says Ed Woodward has been spotted in Amsterdam. Who spotted him then? Would it be a director of football for Van der Sar? So here's another bit. Yeah, Van der Sar, of course, being linked with director of football. There we go. More media speculation to go through. You know what? We will talk about that because actually it was a point that I didn't really think about, but I have heard a few rumors about Edwin van der Sar potentially, although I'm not sure who spotted Woodward in Amsterdam, to be honest with you. I haven't seen that, but there you go. Patrick says Rod made a great point about playing in a foreign country. Who was the last player to get into England playing abroad? Hargreaves. I could be forgetting someone important. Obviously, it is true. There's not that many English players these days, or even British players who go abroad. But maybe Sancho and not Maitland-Niles, Reece Nelson from Arsenal as well. Maybe bucking the trend. Who knows? But I think it's a good point. And Derek here says Sancho is overrated already. Wow, strong words from Derek. Derek there, overrated already. But I think he's got a lot of hype around him, and it's just how he deals with that and how his coaches deal with that will determine how he develops, really. But we're going to move on to our next discussion point. Please do keep your thoughts coming in the live chat. We love reading what you guys have to say. The next thing I want to talk about is all right. We're gonna head straight on to the Solskjaer debate. Now, as I've been saying at the start, there has been a debate raging on since Solskjaer has started producing, let's face it, miracle results at Manchester United, and that is, should Solskjaer be given the permanent manager's job right now? Should he be given it right now, or is it too early? Is it too early to make a decision? Now, this is a debate, I should say, which I've had on Rodney's podcast, which you can check out in the description down below, as well as all the other videos on his channel. So make sure you do check that out in the description. But I've had this debate quite a few times, and it seems that lots of differing opinions from Man United fans. But now we have the main man himself to give his thoughts. Rodney, what do you make of, obviously, BBC did an interview of with Andy Cole, and him saying that Solskjaer should be given the permanent manager's role. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's too early to give Solskjaer the manager's role? Do you think if we did give him the permanent manager's role now, would it affect our form for the rest of the season? But yeah, do you think it's too early to make a judgment?
I think they should stick with the original plan and decide at the end of the season. That's what they said. He was an interim appointment, and that was it, to kind of steady the ship, bring about an upbeat in tempo and the atmosphere, and the players seem happy. For me personally, there's no need to make that announcement now. There is absolutely no need to make it now, unless the board have basically exhausted every single avenue in terms of alternative appointments. But we know that this club doesn't operate like that. It is, if you think about the way that LVG was asked to stay on for an additional year, and his time came to an end because Woodward was already talking behind his back with Jose. Jose had the same treatment. Ole, I don't believe Woodward is talking to anyone, because it's at this end of the season. I think he would start all of his conversations in the summer with someone. I don't believe they have actually been given permission to speak to any other manager, unless it's a manager out of work, and the only person I can think of out of work right now is Jose. So that's not going to happen. So, or unless they're thinking of Sam Allardyce or someone else, or Harry Redknapp, because it's king of the jungle. It makes no sense. It makes no logical sense to actually say we need to make an appointment. Why? Just wait. Just wait.
Just wait is the words from Rodney. I think, look, I'd probably echo that. I mean, look, he's doing a brilliant job, even after the last few losses. But I think he's still doing a miraculous job at Manchester United. And I feel that I think Solskjaer's not the type of guy who would get complacent if he was to be made, permanent manager, say tomorrow. I don't think he'd be complacent, but I just think that once he is made into that permanent role, it's almost as if the honeymoon period ends almost, because it means that he's in that role now. He's no longer the caretaker. He's no longer the lovable supply teacher. He is now the permanent man in the job. And that will open up to a lot more scrutiny from the media and people like that. And I feel like, obviously their original plan, as Rodney said there, was to wait to the end of the season. And I think with the brilliant form, it has brought along some like larger expectations. A lot of people now saying it'd be a failure for us to not finish in the top four. But a few months ago, we were about 11 points off the top four, something like that, and people had almost given up on it. And now we've put these expectations on Solskjaer, and some people, talking to me as United fans, saying if he doesn't get top four, then we should be looking elsewhere. Which to me is I'm not 100% sure I agree with that. But I think if he does get made the permanent manager, the expectations of a Manchester United manager, really start to ramp up. The expectations that we saw under Jose Mourinho then start to be put under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Because as I said, right now he's just a caretaker. But as soon as he gets that permanent role, I think it could change. But I hope it doesn't, to be honest with you. Let's read your comments on this issue then. Apparently I got that wrong. Rasmus says he didn't mean Sancho, Kieran. I asked Sancho or Odoi. Derek said Odoi is overrated. Well, fair enough. I do apologise for the miscommunication there, Derek. But yeah, I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi, another English youngster, I thought was quite impressive. I thought, especially a few nights ago against Montenegro. I thought he had a really, really good full debut for England. And as I said, again, I hope it continues, but it's great to see the youngsters coming through. But I think Odoi, we haven't seen enough for him in league football. And I think for me, league football is kind of the bread and butter, the where you can really measure what a player is like. And unfortunately, Chelsea, with the policy of not really playing that many youngsters, as Sarri's policy at least. Hudson-Odoi doesn't get too much of a look in, but for the Europa League, he has been brilliant for them, and also in the national team as well. So I'd love to see him play some more league minutes before I make a judgment on that. Rasmus says it's important to sign players in the summer, but most important thing is to extend our key players' contract. Well, there you go. You know what, Rashford? You might be one of the first people I've seen who's not putting, 200 million war chests, and saying that we need to spend in all that money. I think extending a key player's contract, one player in particular I've known, Ander Herrera, his contract is running down. I think for me anyway, I think he's a key player. I'm not sure what Rodney thinks about that, but I think for me anyway, I feel like he's a key player. But there are others, David De Gea as well, his contract's running out. So there is a dilemma with this, which is going to be interesting to see what happens with that in the coming days. Just incidentally, Rodney, what are your thoughts on Ander Herrera?
Do you know, I've got to be honest with you, I never ever really rated him. I'm probably one of the very few United fans that kind of waxes lyrical about him. When he arrived shortly after Fellaini, I think Fellaini arrived in the summer, he arrived in the January. It was in at that time where you couldn't work out what position he was. He wasn't playing defensive midfield. He was playing as a number 10. United had, so many number 10s. I couldn't really work out what his worth was within the team. I think over time, he's changed his game to one of being slightly more defensive, which happens with most players when they get older. They kind of curtail the crazy running around. Would I say he's Manchester United's most valuable player? Or, I'm not sure. But, there'll be individuals that disagree with me. If he were to leave, I wouldn't be upset. Just, I wouldn't. But to be honest, if there are quite a few players left, I wouldn't be upset either. So that doesn't say anything,
There you go. Well, look. As I said, I feel that Herrera. Herrera is for me quite an important player. Obviously, Rodney thinks differently, but there you go.
In fact, let me qualify a bit with Herrera. Let me just
go
qualify.
on.
If I were to categorize him, and you'd think of all of the Spanish players that have graced this country and the Premier League and the Premiership, he wouldn't get in the top 5. You've got David Silva, Fabregas, Mendieta. He's just nowhere near as technically gifted as any of those players. He's not even in the high end of double figures for being an international for Spain. I think he's probably got 3 caps in games that are worth, I don't know, they're not anything games. He's probably the last person Spain look to when they make a squad announcement. So, as much as United fans say, he's really pivotal and he understands, I would expect every bloody player to understand the club. I would expect every player that pulls on the United shirt to get the club. So, that's me. It's me being harsh, but I'm sure he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, I'm sure. What the videos I've seen of him, in the training room. I'm sure he's a lovely lad. I'm sure he is. Let's see what the comments have to say. Just want to welcome Art Vrappy. Thanks for joining, mate. He asked, "Who do you think will sign this summer?" Honestly, mate, I cannot answer that question. I've got no idea. Apparently Sancho, but apparently also, potentially Bale's coming back, Griezmann's coming back. So, mate, don't take it from me. I have no idea. Derek says, even if we don't get top 4, Ole should be at the wheel. Needs a chance to build his own team. Well, that's the thing. I think, personally, a few of the previous managers didn't get that opportunity. So I'd love to see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer get the opportunity as well. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting point, and I think for me, I do agree that just because he doesn't get top 4, I don't think we shouldn't. I don't think we should relieve him of his duties. I think. Even a 5th place. The way we progress and the way our football's progressed, I think it does it for me at least. But TTX says the club owners are a disgrace, fiddling with players' contracts just to save money. Well, you know what, TTX, the owners haven't been a disgrace just in this transfer window. We know all about the owners, yeah, they filling with contracts, things like that. I mean, you know, that obviously it's about money making, isn't it? Really, for the owners, they're not football people. And of course they're going to try and squeeze every single little kind of pound or penny out of every transfer they can. And of course, it does seem that's what they're doing with a number of players. And I do hope there are a few players that we do end up keeping and not selling on for profit. But there are some players, as Rodney says, I wouldn't be too upset if they left, let's say. Derek says we do need about 4 or 5 players in the summer. You see that? Look, I mean, look, I don't want to spend too long on this, but I don't think we need. I don't think we're 4 or 5 players. 4 or 5 players, I think, is a bit steep, and I think it's especially in one transfer window. I think it's unrealistic, in my opinion. I think even if we do need the 4 or 5 players, realistically, we're looking at about 3. In terms of world-class players, that is, we could probably get 5 average players, but we don't need average players. We need proper, consistent, world-class players if we are going to be challenging for the title. But 4 or 5, for me, it's a bit unrealistic. Patrick says, what Herrera lacks in talent, he makes up in heart and passion. If that makes sense. It does make sense to me, Patrick. I think that's what a lot of United fans argue. But Ronnie does make a good point, to be fair to him. Why should it just be Ander Herrera that has heart and passion for the shirt? It should be Paul Pogba, not just Paul Pogba, the kit man, everyone at the club, you know, should have, you know. But yeah, okay. Just want to say welcome to the Tactical Show, by the way. Keep your comments coming in. We are going to move on to the final talking point of the show, and that is a bit that isn't 100% related to Manchester United, but Louis Van Gaal did an interview with the BBC as well, and I thought some of the comments he made about his past as Manchester United were quite interesting. So I'm going to put it to you, Ronnie. Some of the comments here. One thing he referenced was the fact that Solskjaer and Mourinho are deploying similar tactics, and the only difference between the two is that Solskjaer is winning. I just want to ask your opinion on that. What are your thoughts? Do you think that he's made a valid point there, or do you think he's missed the mark?
You can agree to a point, but I would add that you can see that the players are trying. You can see that the players are actually running harder, faster, longer. You know, how many times did we hear Jose say, "I didn't ask the team to play like that"? You know, so, you know, they obviously weren't happy with him because he probably said a few things that they didn't agree with. But with Ole, he's come in and he has definitely changed it. What I will say is, if you were to go back with a neutral eye and look at some of the games that Man United have won, in particular, maybe the Spurs game, and you'd look at and you think that they did defend deep. They did play in a particular way that you would have said Jose wanted them to play, or Jose set them up and played like that. And how many times, you know, when have we heard, you know, oh, we need Herrera and Matic to play together to release Pogba. If anyone has the time to go back to the beginning of the season and look at the team selection where Herrera and Matic were playing with Pogba, and ask yourself, where were those performances? Because those that no one else has come in. Those are the same individuals. So I can understand why LVG is saying that, you know, that Solskjaer and Jose are using or operating with the same kind of style. But the difference is that for me, he's probably asking them to do it with a smile. He's asking them to do things in a different way, in a manner, and obviously they're responding to that, and they are now showing what they can do. It doesn't change anything for me in terms of where the team is right now. I think the team are always going to be kind of close to top 4-5 position, because we spoke about that at the beginning of the year in terms of the personnel, which is strange because think about where the team finished the year before and they finished second. So this season has been very difficult. But I can see LVG now. He's able to speak freely. The distance from him and leaving Man United. He's allowed him plenty of time. He hasn't spoken before, really. So he's looking at 2 managers that have followed him, which for him, he can make a comparison. He's not necessarily making an out-and-out comparison about himself, which everyone would make. Everyone may say, oh, he's being bitter. He's not even doing that. He's saying, you got rid of me, and these are the 2 guys that followed me, and what's different about them? But, you know, what I can say is that I've been fortunate enough to go and watch the games when Sir Alex was there, which is long past now in terms of retirement. But when Moyes was there, when LVG was there, and Jose and Ole, and you can see that obviously Ole is getting the best out of the team. But under all of those previous managers, there were games that were boring. Definitely under David Moyes, definitely under LVG, you know, and definitely under Jose. And there will always be a section of the fan base that highlight a particular manager and say they were really crap and they didn't know what they were doing. So, you know, I get what LVG said, what he said, but at the same time, you have to take on board what Ole has done for the club and the players at that moment and since then. The real question will be what happens in the new season. I mean, everyone can talk about now, but the feel-good factors there. What will happen in the new season? What will happen in pre-season? And everyone will realise that, you know, for all of the rumours, and we started off with Sancho, all of the rumours that will surface and go around like birds in the sky, who actually comes in, who actually leaves, and where realistically fans will place Ole in terms of what they expect from him and the team in August. And you know, I think he's probably best placed to take the job. But any other manager looking at this job right now probably will turn their nose up at it. They probably will, because they can see 3 managers down the road and they still can't get it right. And LVG, he named Ed Woodward, you know, in terms of the way things were structured and, you know, whether it's purchasing or transfer acquisition or what, he's named him. And he's like thinking, you cannot have a non-football man doing a football job. And that's Woodward. And that's what we will keep talking about, director of football till the cows come home. Ed Woodward is not letting that go, because he believes he sees himself in the same light as Florentino Perez at Real Madrid, in total control of who comes in and leaves. Total control. He wants it to be him, and it's all about the glitz and the glamour, the financial aspect of the club, and it has nothing to do with what happens on the pitch, which is why you have individuals who everyone will say they dislike, or everyone says they like. Certain players will be asked to leave, and there's certain players that you think that should leave that get an extension. You know, and that's the thing. Why has Ashley Young been given an extension, but Ander Herrera hasn't been, or hasn't accepted the contract offer? You know, and it all comes down to whether a player thinks they're valued, whether they want more money, or whether they just generally are happy to be part of a squad, and a squad that won't necessarily challenge. Not realistically.
No, and I think, I think you made, you know, great points as usual. And as I said, if you want to go check out his channel, cheeky plug in the description down below. But
don't worry, you'll be on tomorrow.
Of course, yeah. I'll tell you what, make sure you check that out. Make sure you're there for that. But yeah, of course, I think what's, you know, as you said, you know, Van Gaal is able to speak freely. I think that has given us a very, very good insight into, you know, to what was going on and what was going on inside his head, more importantly, when he was at the club. And my thoughts on the comments, look, I think ultimately that there could be a bit of look, it's hard to judge. For me, it's hard to judge because in some ways, in some aspects, I kind of agree, as you said, to a certain extent. But I do think Solskjaer and Mourinho, there are differences. I think it's a bit too rash to say the only difference is the fact that Solskjaer's getting 3 points and Mourinho was, you know, only getting a point or no points at all in some cases. I think ultimately Solskjaer, the football that we're playing is the football we're playing right now is happy football. The players are happy, the coaching staff are happy. When Jose Mourinho, especially towards the end of his tenure, he definitely wasn't. He didn't look up for himself. He looked drained. He looked tired, and that was almost being translated into the football as well. So I think there were a lot of differences. I'm conscious of time, but But I'm just going to read a few more of your guys' comments. And if you guys have any more quick last questions, please do let us know. So Derek says, LVG is just a bitter old man. Wow. Not pulling any punches, Derek. Some of what he mentioned was right, but comments about Ole playing the same as Mourinho is completely wrong. Look, I mean, as I said, I think there are definitely differences. There are definitely differences between the two. But yeah, Derek, completely wrong. I would say to an extent he's right, but yeah, mostly wrong. I would change that word to mostly, but of course you've got your opinion. TTX says this is coming from a manager who played 2 defensive midfielders and fell on the floor like a clown.
I'm so glad you got to that, because I was looking at that thinking he did play 2 defensive midfielders, which is Matic and Herrera. Let's be honest, because when we talk about Pogba, everyone says we need 2 defensive midfielders. So what has really changed?
It's a point, to be fair. It's the old guard's still there, to be fair, from the LVG. But I mean, they're probably getting the team for Watford on Saturday as well. So yeah, and then obviously the famous LVG moment, the moment that will go down in history. The title Joe said Ander didn't really get into Jose's side. I thought Ander Herrera is one of Jose's. I mean, it seemed like Ander Herrera. I mean, I was watching Europa League highlights back, and it looked like Ander Herrera at the end of that game would do anything for Jose Mourinho. It looked like Ander Herrera was almost Jose Mourinho's long lost son.
Yeah,
it was almost like, and I think Herrera. I mean, Herrera. Obviously, I think this season at least, he did spend a few. A bit of time on the bench, when Fred obviously first started. But when Fred ultimately got taken out of the team, Herrera did get back in there. So I think there are definitely respect there. I can hear Rodney laughing in the background.
Just thinking, Fred, when they talk about, Fred, there's not enough time. Yeah, there's not enough time.
Oh, well, that's a whole different discussion. But yeah, welcome to Yash, by the way. Thanks for joining, mate. Appreciate it. He says, respect to LVG, but he's totally wrong. Ollie will never sign. Who's that? Schneiderlin. Oh, right, Schneiderlin. Yeah, of course. Well, one of his famous signs, obviously, Bastian Schweinsteiger, another. He did like that sort of, that type of central midfield player. He did like to go for the experience But I thought Schneiderlin was going to do well, but it just shows how wrong you can be. He says, Yash is saying he was at work. Decent. Well, thanks for coming back from work to check this out. Really appreciate it. But yeah, Rodney, I'm conscious you might have to run off soon.
Nice. I've just got a few things to do, but obviously, like bits and bobs, phone calls to make, should I say? That's all. At this late hour.
But have you got any final thoughts? Any other business? Any final thoughts? Anything you in particular have seen or want to talk about that you want to just make a point about?
I think in terms of for me, there are always going to be players that Man United are linked to, and it will go on rotation. It will probably be a centre back the next week, and then it will be a defensive midfielder. I think with all of the things that we want as Man United fans, just to take a moment and pause, wait for Ole to be announced, and then see what happens then, because we all know that the minute he's announced, we expect something to happen in terms of transfers, and generally, it has been down to Woodward. And I like to see in the chat someone saying Koulibaly. Again, I'll just say this, right? Because I did a little. You don't mind if I plug one of my little?
No, not at all, mate.
Right, I did a little kind of stream on Sunday where I talked about Brexit, and to be honest, everyone was probably thinking, what is that got to do with football? Well, I think Brexit has a lot to do with football, and when clubs talk about transfer policies, you have to think about how a player might feel with all of the political turmoil going on. So when we talk about getting players from continental Europe, you have to think about passports, you have to think about work permits, you have to think about whether or not the player themselves will meet the criteria that the Home Office set, not the club, the Home Office, all of these things. So we can put players up there like Koulibaly and whoever else, and Perisic, and who was the other one that we had in the summer that was linked, that was going to come in from midfield? Okay, his name escapes me now. I think really wait till the end of the season, let Ole be announced, and then go from there. And actually by then you'll be able to see what the landscape looks like for the club from his point of view, because then you'll expect him to have a good feel of what he needs to do, or will it be he has to do what he's told, which pretty much has been the case since Sir Alex Ferguson stepped down. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, we'll definitely see, but as you see, Ronnie's advice, just take a deep breath. You know, take a deep breath,
take a chill,
take a pause. Exactly.
Yeah.
In these times, in these stressful times, just take a breath.
You got to read that last comment. It's just cracked.
I will do.
Yeah,
I will.
yeah.
I'm going to read the last few comments here before I can see the comment Ronnie's pulling out. I already know. So yeah, Yasser mentioning Koulibaly and Sancho there, and he hopes he retains Herrera. So there you go, another one on the Herrera in. And TTX Productions. Let's finish off the stream. He says, I will be 60 years old by the time Brexit happens. I'll tell you what, I don't know how old you are now, but I think that could be accurate.
He's 7.
So you know what? I have no idea what's going to happen with Brexit. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I cannot sum up what's going on. But of course, if you want to see some thoughts about Brexit and football, as Ronnie said, his video is on his channel. Really, really good watch. Make sure you check it out in the description down below if you haven't already. But yeah, we discussed many of the Man United news stories. Of course, I'll be back to doing match previews on Friday. Really looking forward to getting back into the swing of uploading those previews, reviews, all that good stuff for the run-in for the rest of the season. It's going to be very, very exciting. Barcelona in the Champions League, of course. I'm looking forward to that. But on that bombshell, we are gonna say goodbye. I want to say thank you very much for Rodney for taking time out of his day to come on this stream. Really do appreciate it, Rodney. Been a great discussion. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, no worries. It's good, and I'll see you. Well, speak to you tomorrow on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to it. And as I said, guys, make sure you check out the podcast and all the other podcasts on his channel in the description down below. And make sure you leave a like on this stream as well if you haven't already. But thank you for everyone who has watched tonight. Really do appreciate it. And if you are watching this as a video, don't be afraid to hit me up in the comment section down below as well on what you thought of any of the issues discussed. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like and subscribe to this channel and Rodney's channel in the description down below. And we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.